On September the 11th, the world suffered a tragedy. An act of terrorism so great that it's undoubtedly changed us all in perpetuity. In the aftermath of September the 11th, stories of heroism filled the media.
Some guy came out, his skin was all off. I helped him out. This is him all over.
Ordinary people who put aside their natural reaction of fear to change the fate of many trapped in a towering inferno. One of many heroes that day was William Rodriguez. William, a former janitor at the World Trade Center, was the last man to exit the North Tower before it collapsed. He held one of 5 master keys to the whole complex and re-entered the building 3 times in a desperate attempt to reach his friends at the windows on the World Restaurant on the 106th floor.
The king!
The master key, yes.
The master, the key to the stairway to heaven.
On his final re-entry to the building, William proceeded to lead the fire crews up the A stairwell of the North Tower, unlocking the fire escapes.
The true heroes of the World Trade Center, right here. Right here. How you say hero, Espanol?
Héroe.
Héroe. Héroe. Mi amigo, héroe.
William helped save many lives that day, but since 9/11 his story has become the debate of much controversy.
There was an explosion prior the plane hitting the building.
This documentary speaks to key eyewitnesses who have become central figureheads in this controversy.
Like, it smelled like gunpowder. You know, it smelled like really, like I don't know if you ever been to a firing range.
I wish people would really investigate a little further, because I was in 2 World Trade and there were people in the elevator that were on fire and the second plane did not hit yet. And I don't think flames from 1 World Trade could shoot across the air and ignite a shaftway in 2 World Trade. I don't think that can happen.
You know, it's incredible that every time that I come here, I feel the chills, I feel this cold vibration. It's like the spirits of these people are still here. They're still trying to raise themselves from this pile of dust and rubble that is here and claim for justice. Look through here. Look through there.
My name is William Rodriguez, and I work at the World Trade Center for almost 20 years, and I was a janitor in charge of all the stairwells of the North Tower. My job consisted of cleaning the stairwells from the top of the building all the way down to the concourse level. On 9/11 was a defining moment for my life. That's when everything changed.
Allied under pressure.
Working at the World Trade Center was an experience by itself because it was a community. The World Trade Center has such a variety of people from different religions, different countries, and different backgrounds. It was a beautiful mosaic of cultures, all put together in one place. I never got tired of working there. I really liked the place, and from almost 20 years there, I never had a regret of working at that location.
Get out, I'm mad at you. A whole day and nothing was done in the office.
You see, guys, you see what I tell you.
Get out.
Come on,
You guys do what you feel like, and you think it's funny. Get out.
In 2008, I travelled to New Jersey to meet William Rodriguez. I'd met him in 2007, whilst he was touring Europe campaigning for a new investigation into the events of 9/11. Vehemently protective over his experience of that day, he'd allowed me to tell his story. Throughout the course of the making of this documentary, I have contacted several eyewitnesses who were with William that day to try and find out what really happened, but only a handful agreed to share their experience with me. Anthony Saltalamacchia worked with William for the janitorial company American Building Maintenance. Anthony was the shift supervisor. He was in charge of designating employees' work for the day. At 8 AM on 9/11, he received a phone call from William saying he wasn't coming into work.
On the morning of September 11th, I was in my office. I was just getting the work handed out to all the workers, and I received a phone call from William Rodriguez stating that he wasn't coming into work. I then persuaded him to come into work because his job is very difficult, and he does clean 110 floors of stairs, and not too many people want to do that. So I kind of pleaded with him, you have to come in for the day.
At 8:30 in the morning, I made it directly to the basement of the North Tower, basement number 1. There were 6 levels of basement, B1, B2, B3, all the way down to B6. The support office for my company, American Building Maintenance, was located on the B1 level. It was right on top of the mechanical room area that was located on the basement number 2. So I went in, I punched in my card to start the job of the day, and I started talking to the supervisor about the distribution of work for that day and other issues. And while I was there, at 10 minutes after punching in, around that time, 8:46, we hear, boom! An explosion so loud and so hard that pushed us upwards in the air, upwards. All the walls cracked, the false ceiling fell on top of us, the sprinkler system got activated, water started coming everywhere, everybody screaming, 14 people in its totality inside the office area, everybody screaming out of horror. The first thing that comes to my mind was that a generator just blew out on the mechanical room. Not that there was a generator, it was just a speculation of me at that moment because we were right on top of the mechanical room. So when I went to verbalize it 6 to 7 seconds after, I hear, bah! Right on the top of the building, 2 different events. And it was so loud that actually the building shook and you could hear the cracking of the walls.
That morning when we did hear the explosion, I felt also it came from the mechanical room. It was more of an earthquake or something definitely wrong, but we felt that it was underneath us. After that, we then heard multiple explosions from the upper levels.
At 8:46 that morning, American Airlines Flight 11 slammed into the upper floors of the North Tower, 93 floors above William and Anthony. New York firefighter John Schroeder, who was stood across the street at the time, recalls the event.
The first call? I was standing outside quarters, Willie. I called the plane in. I was standing right there. There was the towers.
So you actually saw the plane hit in the building?
I saw the first plane hit.
Yeah. Very good.
I called the 1060, and it's all emergency vehicles of the fire department respond to the Trade Center. As we were getting on our rig, dodging bodies that were already blown out of the building.
William claims the explosion that occurred seconds before the plane hit the building was never properly investigated by the 9/11 Commission. When the explosion went off, what was your gut instinct that it was?
My gut instinct was definitely definitely a bomb, definitely an explosion of I felt it was grenades at first because there was multiple different explosions going on. So I knew definitely it was it was no doubt in my mind that a bomb had went off.
According to the official version by the National Institute of Standards and Technology, when Flight 11 hit the North Tower, it sent a fireball of kerosene down an express elevator called the 50A car. This went from the B6 level all the way up to the 106th floor. Kenny Johanneman, a janitor at the World Trade Center, was stood next to this 50-car elevator on the B1 level that morning.
So what I did was I went up to the 43rd floor, got the cafeteria, got my coffee, came back down, put my sundries on my cart, and went to the elevator.
This is on the B1 level?
B1 level. So what happened was I put my cart in front of the elevator, And I'm waiting there, and there was a bunch of delivery guys on the side there, and I'm like, hey guys, what's up? You know, I knew, you know, certain guys, you know, we were all friends. Every day you go there, you know, you're friends with good people, you know? So I'm like, what's up guys? And then all of a sudden, boom, there was a big explosion. The whole building shook, and then all of a sudden, the elevator came down, blew out. There was dust, debris. I mean, I couldn't see anything. As the smoke cleared, I heard screaming and yelling, bomb, bomb, bomb. I'm hurt. You know, something's wrong. And at my feet was one of the delivery guys. So I grabbed him, and when I grabbed him, he was all burnt up. He was screaming, yelling. It was like horrifying because he was in such pain. I could feel it, you know. So I grabbed him underneath his shoulder, and when I grabbed him, he slid down. And when he slid down, his arm was all ripped up and skin just ended up in my hand. I threw it down, I grabbed him. It was pink, it was burnt, it was raw. And I just grabbed him, and what I did was we just started running to the office, the ABM office. And there was like 14, 15 people in there, Ivan and Willie Rodriguez, Anthony.
Felipe David, a vending machine refiller from Honduras, was waiting for the 50-car elevator that morning. He was burnt 33% of his body by the explosion. Numerous attempts to find Felipe and speak about the incident have failed.
I smelt smoke and burnt debris, and like it smelled like gunpowder. You know, it smelled like really like I don't know if you ever been to a firing range, but that's what it smelled. It smelled like just like gunpowder and just like debris and just burnt things.
So it didn't smell of, say, kerosene?
No. I didn't smell any kerosene. I smelled just like, it smelled like gunpowder and just burning debris.
At roughly 8:48 that morning, Kenny helped Felipe into the main office where William and the others were. As William went to pick up the phone to call the emergency medical unit for Felipe, they claimed they were rocked by a third explosion.
Crying, everybody's going crazy. As I go to pick up the phone, another explosion. But this one checked the building from side to side. The doors cracked everywhere. The top ceiling fell down, and the floor was moving under us.
The floor started shaking. The tile from above, which was above us, started coming down, falling on us, and we knew that there was something seriously wrong happening.
He ran in first. Willie grabbed the guy and started like taking care of him, you know, bandaging him up. And then all of a sudden there was another boom, and we all started running around, like everyone was grabbing, you know, places to hide underneath the door. And so we were really scared, you know, and it was nothing that we were used to, you know. So what we did was we said, you know, we can't stay here. What if this whole building collapses on us? What are we gonna do?
And as we're standing there, more explosions were happening, a lot of screaming, confusion. And then William said, you know, that it's time, like, we have to get out of the building.
The sprinkler system got activated. There's water all over. And at that very moment, everybody started saying it's an earthquake because the floor was moving below us. And I survived the bomb of 1993. I was stuck in an elevator for almost 4.5 hours. And it was an express elevator. They have to break through a wall because it was a lift that goes from the bottom all the way to the 78th floor and doesn't stop anywhere in between. So they have to break through a wall to get us out. So the first thing, osmosis, that I think is bombs, terrorist attack.
The amount of explosions I've heard from 8:46 to the time we get out was so many, at least 10. It was just like multiple explosions to where I felt like there was different grenades. That's what it sounded like. It was just different grenades being set off, like, in the building. It was like, you know, there was one major explosion, and then there was different explosions throughout that period of time until we got out.
So I start pushing everybody out of the office, take Mr. Felipe David, put it on my shoulder. When I get outside, I see an ambulance coming, stop the ambulance, put Mr. David inside. He goes into a coma. And they are trying to, you know, revive him. And at that very moment, I hear for the first time, a plane hit the building,
Willie, in his
in his testimony, states that the first explosion that he heard came from below him and pushed him upwards in the air. Is that what happened to you?
Well, I can't say where the explosion came from, because all I know is that the building just hit. So the explosion, it just, debris and dust and everything was just around. I couldn't tell if the explosion was upstairs, downstairs. I couldn't tell you. You know what I mean? It could have came from there because, you know, people were screaming downstairs and people were burnt up.
So people were screaming on the level below you?
Yes.
No, I don't believe the official version I was told. I think there was more to it. What I've read and what I've heard doesn't add up to what I've experienced being there as an eyewitness and being right in the center of it all. I just feel that there's something else more to it than what is being told.
No, after 7 years, I don't feel that I've been told the truth. I mean, there's just people speculating about things and just making up their own thing. They were not there, so they can't tell me. People are telling me on the internet that I'm lying. They're telling that Willie Rodriguez is lying. They're saying, oh, how could this happen? How could that happen? And that's wrong, because they were not there.
The 9/11 Commission was set up on November 27, 2002, to prepare a full and complete account of the circumstances surrounding the September 11, 2001 attacks. At the hearing, William testified specifically about explosions before and after the plane hitting the building, but had to do so behind closed doors. It was not televised, and when the final report was released, his testimony was completely omitted. The Commission failed to call the 22 eyewitnesses that William had made available to testify about what happened that day.
No, I was never called to testify in any investigation or never even contacted at all.
No, I was never called to testify in front of the 9/11 Commission or any commission. Nobody ever called me to say, hey, Kenny, what do you feel? What happened? What do you think? Never.
John Mongello was William and Anthony's boss at American Building Maintenance. A survivor of the South Tower, John's story has gone untold until now, and also claims to have witnessed horrific events before the plane hitting the building.
On September 11, 2001, I was employed at the World Trade Center for American Building Maintenance. Prior to 9/11, I started as a supervisor, worked my way up to project management, and during the September 11th incident, I was the project executive overseeing 650 employees for American Building Maintenance. I was in the lobby. We were trying to help a couple of people in the building. I remember that in 2 World Trade Center, some of the elevators in the lobby were on fire, and the second incident did not happen yet. I went up to an elevator myself. I opened up the doors in the elevator, and the people in the elevator were on fire.
What did you do when you saw that?
Basically, we opened the elevator. I didn't want the doors to shut, and the woman came out of the elevator. She was frantic, landed in the elevator floor, and fell into the elevator pit, which wasn't too deep. Thank God she was right there. And then this fire department guy, I'll never forget him. He ran, slid, reached down, and grabbed her and hoisted her right out. Somehow it happened so quick. It's something I'll never forget. Basically, what happened after that, I said, I think we need to leave. Let's meet up with the staff. I was calling staff to meet up on this corner. As soon as we exited 2 World Trade Center, we heard this loud, roaring noise. And we looked up and we saw this I actually thought it was a huge missile. It was a big tube. It was an airplane, apparently. And it flew right above our heads. We looked straight up and we watched it disappear into the building. At that point, these big fireballs shot out of the building. Brendan and I were on the street level, and we felt the heat, that our faces felt like they were burning. That's how hot it was. So we had to run back into the building to get away from these debris that were falling. I do not think the government did a good job investigating the whole situation. From everyone I spoke to, from coworkers to friends to outsiders, everyone has a different story. I myself was in the building. I cannot understand how people were in 2 World Trade Center on fire in an elevator and the second plane did not hit yet. It's unexplainable. And there's other stories from other people that it doesn't sound right.
A 3-year study into the collapse of the towers by NIST concluded that airplane debris sliced through utility core columns, spreading fire and destruction throughout all areas of the building.
Whatever you want to believe, I know what I believe. I was in the building, like you said, Willie. You can't tell me nothing. You weren't next to me. I don't care what anybody says. I'll tell them. Where were you? What were you watching on TV? You telling me what was going on right next to me?
The expert, the famous expert out there.
From TV, you're giving me the insight. Yeah. Time out here. You can't tell me nothing. I was in the building. I know what I heard. I know what I seen. I know what I went through.
Still refusing to accept the government's official version, William now travels the world telling people his version of events of what happened that day.
2 planes crashed into the Twin Towers, and yet you still maintain there was a conspiracy.
I believe that I don't doubt that the planes were there. The plane hit the building, but before, and one of the experiences that I said even when I was pulled from the rubble on 9/11 is that there was an initial explosion on the sub-level number 2, B2. There were 6 sub-levels in the building prior to the plane hitting the building.
Nothing would ever change your mind that you think?
I was there, I saved people, I actually had the people available for the 9/11 Commission. That was the commission that was created to investigate this. They were never called, not even once. They're still available 5 years after, and the government came out with an official story that went against our experience on that day.
Let's just get back. Get back.
William and the group exited the building at around 8:50 a.m, a full 7 minutes before the second plane hit the South Tower.
A tower.
What floor were you on?
B1.
What floor?
The first one.
What happened? Tell me.
When a big explosion happened, some guy came out, his skin was all off. I helped him out. This is him all over. There's people jumping out of windows. I've seen at least 14 people jumping out of windows.
When I was there outside, we were devastated. Like we looked up and we didn't even know what was going on. And we saw the hole, and we saw papers and pieces of the building falling down. I mean, people were screaming.
I'll never forget this. I seen a lady. I just remember what she was. I just saw the color of her outfit and everything. It was a blue dress, and she was just flapping, in the wind, just falling down fast. And it was a very, very, tough moment.
I see the hole, I see the fire, I see the smoke, but I don't see the antenna. And the first thing that comes into my mind is the people from Windows, meaning Windows of the World. That was a restaurant that was located on the 106th floor. You see, I was supposed to be there. I came in late. I will go every day to the 106th floor to start my cleaning routine, and I will have breakfast. They gave me breakfast for free. Every day I will eat there for free. So I knew all those people, all 67 members from Windows of the World that died. They were my friends.
Willie disappeared. He ran back inside. I didn't, I tried getting back inside, but they were like, the police officers were like, no, you can't go back inside. But Willie was already gone, so, and that was it. That was the, I just sat outside crying, and, the guy, we walked him over to the ambulance, and Willie was gone, and, that was it as far as being inside the building.
Anything else that you saw? Were you there for the second hit by the plane?
After, about 10 minutes later, the second building went off.
Did you see it?
Yes, I saw it. It just blew up. A big explosion. People started running. It was just chaos everywhere.
The reason I'm doing this interview is because I want to set the record straight. I want to tell people that my version of the story, my truth, when you go to other people, they twist it, they turn it, they don't do the right thing. And I feel that Willie is doing the right thing by trying to help people, and he's telling the truth, and I want them to know that I was with him that day. The newspaper, all those people weren't with us, so they don't know the truth. Willie knows the truth, I know the truth, and that's why I'm doing this interview.
The government.
What you're accusing them of is murdering 3,000 of their own people.
No, I'm not accusing them. I'm accusing that they didn't do a thorough investigation, that they did not check every allegation. And I agree with you in certain parts. You're a patriot here, and but you understand that when you are doing an investigation, an inquiry anywhere in the world, and I've spoken to as you have done, to prime minister, to presidents of countries, and they have said that when you do an inquiry, you will check every possible angle, and they did not check every possible angle.
It's impossible to check every possible angle.
Why?
What do you want to do? Check the background of all 3,000 people?
How about
Why
taking
not?
the evidence from the eyewitness?
So I started screaming, we gotta go back, we gotta go back, we gotta go back. Nobody wanted to go back. The supervisor that I just pushed out from the office to the outside of the building was screaming at me, Rodriguez, you stay here. I said, no, we gotta go in. I took the radio from the security guard and I started running inside the building. I found a lady that worked for the Marriott Hotel that was at the employee entrance, and she was trembling, holding a podium at this entrance. I said, what are you doing here? You gotta get out. And you know what she said? I'm a new employee. I heard everything, but I don't want to leave because I don't want to get fired.
Oh no.
Yes. You see the ignorance, because we did not know, like you said in the very beginning, the whole world was watching.
But you didn't, the people who
didn't know.
Involved didn't know.
We didn't know.
The following piece is gathered from news reports when the second tower, the North Tower, where William worked, was hit, and it does contain strong language at the beginning.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Another plane just flew in.
I feel the heat. The explosion is incredible. Oh my God!
Another plane as we were watching.
I don't believe this. The second tower has exploded from about the 20 stories below in a gargantuan explosion. Oh my God! I don't believe it.
Brian Lutz there on the scene as we were talking. You just heard it.
Sean, it's me. I just wanted to let you know I love you, and I'm stuck in this building in New York. I'm waiting at the building where a bomb went off. We don't know, but there's lots of smoke, and we just wanted you to know that I love you always.
But if we could strive to be half as brave, half as determined as tonight's speaker, and perhaps we could change the course of history the way he did on September 11th. A man of strength, a man of hope, and the last man out of the World Trade Center. Please give a warm welcome to someone who exemplifies the word hero, Mr. William Rodriguez.
What's happening? I pushed that lady out, went running to the North Tower. When I get to the North Tower, I found a guy that worked for the recycling company screaming, I hear screams, I hear screams. And you couldn't really hear it because the swooshing sound of the water, of the sprinkler system. The building had more than 150 elevators. So I put my ear in one of the lifts. It was a service lift, and I heard two people stuck in there, screaming for help. Ladies and gentlemen, I was not a believer. I was an agnostic. And for the first time, I said, God, please help me. And in an area that was cleaned of construction debris, I found a metal pipe. I picked up that pipe, and with the help of Mr. Barrett, we broke the door. The door opened up this way. They got encapsulated between two floors, between the B2 level, basement 2 and the basement number 3, encapsulated. And they're screaming that they were going to drown. They're too deep down there. And all of a sudden, I remember that in the area where they have the trash compactors for the building, the electricians there always had the ladders that they use for changing light bulbs and things like that, tied up with chains because it was the loading dock, so people will not steal them. So I start running over there and saying, please let me find one, please let me find one. I'm the miracle of all of them. The only one that was not tied up was the longest one of all of them.
After 9/11, I became very spiritualistic because I was agnostic. I didn't believe in anything until I claimed for help in the moment of need. And it is said in the Bible that when you really ask God with sincerity in your heart, you will always receive. And that's exactly what happened. I was blessed at that moment that I received all the help that I needed. So really, it just made a connection. I was totally born again on that day. I'm here by a miracle. I really am.
And I took that ladder, went in, dropped it in, and got these two people out. One of them, Salvatore Giambanco, an Italian painter for the Port Authority, who I did not know either, and a delivery guy. Got them outside, took them outside the building, put them in an ambulance, and went back inside the building, the same thing all over again. Don't go in, don't go in. I didn't want to listen. You know why? Because I wanted to get to the top. I wanted to help my friends. Which sadly I was never able to do. I saved hundreds of people on 9/11, hundreds. And the people that I really wanted to help, I never got to them. My friends from 20 years in the building, 13 fellow workers died also. In total, I lost 200 friends on 9/11. When I go back in, I found only one person. Police officer David Lim from the Port Authority of New York. He was in charge of the K-9 unit. He was in charge of rescue efforts for the building. And the first thing he said, Willie, do you have the key? And I said, yes, I have the key.
Basically, William Rodriguez, his duties in the building were to inspect all these staircases in One World Trade. He also did a lot of the move jobs, move in, move outs, and clean outs of vacancies. His job entailed traveling through staircases, so he did have keys for the entire staircase. He had a Grand Master key.
The reason the key was so important was because 3 out of 4 fire escapes at the World Trade Center were locked for fire containment purposes. One would open, but the next 3 would remain locked all the way to the top of the building.
Basically, there were only 5 or 6 in the whole building. William had got one of these keys from an arbitration case he won. He needed one. There were re-entry floors on every 3 floors. William had the key to get in, so if there was an incident where he needed to get in, he had the key to open the stairs and go in.
After helping people out of the elevators, William made it to the lobby of the North Tower at roughly 9:20 a.m. To his amazement, the fire department were waiting at the elevators with the fire access key. William told them not to wait and to follow him because he had the master key.
This is the master key that I will give you to
let's
touch.
see.
We call it the key of hope. With that key, we were able to save hundreds of people because I went floor by floor opening the doors so people could escape. I was followed by the fire department.
So you actually, you were helping the firefighters, weren't
They were
you?
following
And of
me,
course, I was
yes.
going to say, you were leading the way because you
Correct.
had the knowledge of the layout of everything.
There was an explosion. We're on the support floor, which is a basement. Guy came in running. All his skin was out of his body. Oh my God. All his skin was out of his body. We took him out. We ran out. We heard a lot of rumbling. I went back in. There was a lot of smoke. We went up by the stairs with the Port Authority police to start rescuing people. There were still firemen there before the building collapsed. There were people on the 34th floor, on the 36th floor, 37th floor, and 39th floor. And we're talking about 30 firemen.
That were up on those floors?
That were on those floors.
When it collapsed?
When it collapsed.
How are you? My name's Johnny Schroeder. I'm a firefighter down in Engine 10, right across from the World Trade Center. That morning, 9/11, I tell you, it was one of the best days until I looked up in the sky and there was a plane hitting the building. And from that moment on, my life has changed in an incredible way. One of the first guys in the building, one of the last firefighters out of the building. From the get-go, things were a little crazy. From the time we got into the lobby to the time we made it to the 23rd floor The explosions going up, different fires coming out of nowhere, people burned from all different floors. Just trying to get a read on what was going on. Couldn't really figure it out. No, we had to go up. We pretty much knew we were gonna die. I figured we set up prayers. We're going up, everybody's coming down. It's not gonna be, wasn't gonna be a good day.
I continue going up, and when I go up, two guys come down and said, there's a man on a wheelchair on the 27th floor that needs help. Imagine bringing a person on a wheelchair down this stairwell and the whole queue of people behind trying to escape. So they always leave them for the last. But I didn't understand that at that moment. His name was Ed Beye, paraplegic, couldn't breathe, have an asthma attack.
I actually on 23rd floor got a mayday that a second plane was hitting. Looked at my boys and said, second plane? What do you mean second plane? Bang, within seconds of second plane, bang. Not even like, oh, you would see the second plane coming from by Lady Liberty. Seconds, we got banged around. We took off. That's when we met you. That's when we met you. And that, God, thank you.
Oh, no, thank you. And the key. And
the
this
key.
is the key.
Master key. Yes. The master, the key to the stairway to heaven. God bless the key.
God bless. God bless.
It's all right. It'll all come out. You know, we keep on doing what we were doing now. It'll all come out.
And I continue going up, and as I go up, opening doors, checking the offices, I get up to the 33rd floor. Now, the 33rd floor, it was empty. When I go around the corridor, what do I find there? A lady on the floor, no shoes, blonde lady, American lady, trembling in fear. And she said that she was a new employee. She didn't know where to go. Ladies and gentlemen, the World Trade Center was 110 floors each building. Then you have the small buildings. They had 16 acres, 50,000 workers, and they only had fire drills twice a year. Twice a year.
Is that real?
Willie, go away.
Where's your shoes?
Where's my shoes? By my desk, so I can go home. Richie, Willie.
For the first 10 years of his time at the World Trade Center, William worked as an aide for the then Governor of New York, Mario Cuomo. He would set up press conferences and was exposed to high-level policy making and legislation passing on a daily basis.
We are in deep trouble, Willie.
We have to, you know what? No. What I'm saying is that 1988, even though we've done a superb job, I gotta tell you, I think we have done a better job than anybody in this executive chamber. I agree with that. Yes. I think we've worked harder. I think we have a better staff. I think we have a more dedicated, more loyal staff.
And everybody's always talking about us.
And this is being recorded, and I don't give a damn, because I really mean it.
Really?
From the bottom of my heart.
Yes.
But I feel in
Directly to the governor.
1988, we are really going to have to sit down and talk about some real changes for our community. And we have to really think about innovative, new kinds of things, because we are, like you said, in deep trouble. There's no question about it.
Through osmosis, William used this exposure to help pass through the Victims of Terrorism Compensation Fund. This meant that any child of a victim of 9/11 would receive a free education up to the age of 21.
Talking to victims and survivors, and we have many of them here, and getting a real sense what the scholarship will mean to them was a wonderful event. Paulina Cardona, who's sitting over there, please stand up. She lost her husband, Jose, and was pregnant at the time of the tragedy. She gave birth to a beautiful and healthy baby, right here.
He then went on to get an amnesty from Congress for the undocumented workers' families to receive compensation.
I became an activist after 9/11. I started dealing with the issues of the families and the victims. And I have to actually go and deal with the families of the friends that lost their loved ones. And it was very, very, very hard. I created the Hispanic Victims Group, which was the organization that I became a president of.
With his strong Hispanic links and newly found high-profile status, William believes that the government saw him as a political ally to connecting with the 30 million Latino voters in America.
Why have you decided to make life difficult for yourself?
Actually, I was playing the game without knowing it because they took me to the White House and they said, this is the guy that we need to run for political office. He will be able to get the 30 million Latino Hispanic voters in the United States. And they sent me to a training institute to run for politics. I did that.
However, once he started to ask for an investigation into 9/11, he claims all the support from the White House disappeared.
So they said, this is the man. Up to the moment that I started to ask questions, and I said, don't ask that, don't get into that, don't you know, you're going to get yourself into trouble. Mm-hmm. And when I start getting all this kind of bad feedback, I knew that I had to choose either the truth or play ball, play a game. And I didn't want to play a game. You know, I'm surviving here on barely nothing because I do these speaking tours all over the world on barely a shoestring of a budget, which is donations that people give. And but again, you know, it's the only way that I can glorify God's second opportunity of me being alive.
This is the Pulaski Skyway. This is a bridge that connects part of Newark with Jersey City, and it takes you straight to the Holland Tunnel. This is exactly where I was sleeping once I became homeless. I would bring my car through these doors, I will open these gates, park my car out of sight between these two walls of slabs of wood over here, and hide over here. And as you can see, it's just like a parking lot in the middle of the whole area. And I will shut off the car and I will sleep here. This is the place that became my home. I became homeless after, you know, the whole event of the White House, the recognitions. This happened after I started questioning the 9/11 official story, because the whole 9/11 Commission situation, that's happened right after that. It wasn't before.
10 seconds. Ba, 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 ba.
Why was the Congress taking evidence from you behind closed doors? Surely they would have wanted to publicise your statement.
Because my testimony blew away the official story of what happened on that day. And that's part of the conference that we're doing today.
So what you're saying is that you have a conspiracy theory that there was explosives in place before.
No. Let me interrupt you, because I've been asked this before. Mine is not a conspiracy theory because I am an eyewitness. I am a person that experienced the event. I was there. You see, a conspiracy theorist will speculate on something that he did not experience.
Did you meet Bush?
Oh, yes.
What did he say to you?
Isn't God great that he used you as a tool for saving all those people?
Are you now a hated figure in America?
I'm very well loved by the victims, survivors, and those affected, the family members, and but I'm hated by people that support the Republican Party with all teeth and nail, basically.
So you wouldn't go into sort of middle America, the Bible Belt, or anywhere around there?
Remember, I talk about how I found God on 9/11, and so that shouldn't be the problem. The problem would be the political part of pointing the fingers of the people that have not done anything for 6 years, basically after 9/11, have done anything to save these people.
And I see that you're down to talk in the East London Mosque.
At 8:46, we hear boom! An explosion so loud and so hard that pushes us upwards in the air. Push us upwards. Think about this.
Do you get a good welcome?
I get a good welcome all over Europe, everywhere I have gone, for the simple reason that, and why we do the mosque, very simple. These are the community that is mostly affected because of 9/11. They have criminalized them all over the world. They say, oh no, just it was a bunch of extremist Islamics. No. That's what they put as part of this PSYOP. but in reality, they are criminalizing everybody. Why don't you get the Islamic community in the United States to come forward and talk? Very simple, because they created so many obstacles. The Patriot Act, the Homeland Security Act, basically criminalizing anybody that talks against the government. That's what they're doing.
So I continue until the moment that I get to the 39th floor, opening doors and letting people out. When I get to the 39th floor, from the opposite side of the floor, David Lim, the police officer, comes up with 2 fire chiefs. This guy with white shirts. And we meet in the middle of the corridor, and we are talking about what we were going to do next. And all of a sudden we hear, boom! And automatically, when that happened, we start losing our footing because the building swiveled so much, and all of a sudden we hear, pa, 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 pa. And a huge collapse into the building. And on the security guard's radio, we hear, we lost 65, we lost 65. Meaning that the 65th floor collapsed floor by floor by floor up to the sky lobby, the 44th floor. And I start screaming, we gotta go up, we gotta go up. I'm on the 39th floor. Nobody wanted to go up. And I'm so angry because nobody's moving. And then David Lim, the police officer, said, Willie Rodriguez, you stay here. You're not going back up there. You don't get paid for this. I said, what? I'm going up. You're still a civilian and you are my responsibility. I said, David, I'm going up. I'm sorry. I'm going up. He said, better if you give me a hand with the person on the wheelchair and get out. So I ran down to the 27th floor. I said, I have orders to get this guy out the building right now. 3 firemen stood up. I said, let's go. We picked him up. We start going down the stairwell. And it was like a scene from the Tower in Inferno. You could hear explosions, pa, pa, inside the building, and pieces, chunks of the concrete falling around us. But it was like we were protected because nothing was falling on top of us. And one sad memory that I have is that as we went down, I could hear clearly, and it's a nightmare for anybody, the screams of the people that were stuck inside the elevators asking for help. Screaming for help. They were stuck in those elevators and they couldn't be helped. Nobody talks about that.
Nearly 2 hours and 45 minutes had passed since the first impact. William, Ed B.A. and members of the fire department had descended the stairwells to the lobby. Ed B.A. was placed on the floor and William was told to go get the ambulance ready.
As I get to the front of the building, I hear for the first time the police. They're across the street on the World Financial Center. They had the area cordoned out. And they're screaming, don't look back, don't look back. And when they tell you, don't look back, what do? Yes, exactly. I turn around, and then when I lower my eyesight, and this is the part that really breaks me on these conferences, is when I look down, ladies and gentlemen, I just saw the bodies of everybody that jumped out of the building. The bodies of people that you couldn't recognize them because the impact was so hard that it's like they melted on the floor. You could see the clothing, but you couldn't recognize faces or anything. And now the worst part is that that lady from the 33rd floor, I found her cut in half. She came outside the building, maybe hoping that she was saved. And a piece of glass, probably from the top of the building, came down like a guillotine and cut her in half. there was a fire truck parked in front of the building. So I ran towards the fire truck, I slid right under, and the building started to collapse right on top of me. Pa, 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 and the truck was going down. And all I said at that moment was, God, please, don't give my mother the pain of seeing my body in parts. Let her recognize my body. I didn't want my mother to have to go through the same pain of seeing the bodies that I saw, unrecognizable. I wanted her at least to recognize me.
William was buried alive for 2 hours under this fire truck. Miraculously, he didn't break a single bone and returned to the pile looking for other survivors.
It was just total chaos.
Did you park your rig where?
Right outside the front door, baby, on West Side Highway.
That probably,
right
probably the rig that saved me.
You dove under a rig also?
Yes, and I pulled the boots and I found the legs of one of the firemen in the boot. And that's when I started screaming. We pulled one guy out, and as we take him out to an ambulance, he exhaled. You could see that his whole face was blackened. There was blood all over the nose area. And as we went to the ambulance, he exhaled. So it was very, very shocking.
He died in that moment?
Yeah, he did. There was no other way.
Because my buddy was recommitted out. I don't know if you know Mitch. He dove in the ambulance that was outside with the cop. They were trapped.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
yes,
my
yes,
God.
yes.
He'll never be the same.
This dust came from all over. Remember that dust, everybody running away from that big cloud of dust? It was hot, extremely hot. It burned my face. I'm right under the truck. And all of a sudden I said, I'm not dying squashed to death. I'm going to die of asphyxia now. So I put my face under my shirt. And you see, I was a magician. Little fact that everybody knows, I was a magician for 30 years.
Yeah, right here. I got an April here. April. Right here.
I learned with the amazing Randy, one of the foremost escape artists in the world. And I did those escape acts. Remember the straitjacket, the chains, the handcuffs. And one of the things that he taught us all the time was that when it comes to something like that, a problem, just relax, bring your breathing all the lowest possible, and just wait.
Is there any doubt in your mind about what he says?
Absolutely none whatsoever. Absolutely. When I heard William and he got up there, I thought, wow, and I was really taken aback by the power behind his voice and his persona. And I mean, that's a man with great courage. It took great courage to do what he did, to save so many lives, and then to speak up against a vast nation like the US. I mean, come on. His life must be threatened on a daily basis. You know, but he had the courage to do that, and he had the courage to come here and to speak to us as well. So what can I say? I mean, that's the only way forward, and we need more people like that.
So what did you think of tonight? Do you think there was any truth in what you heard at all?
No, I don't. I think that the account given by the 9/11 Commission is probably as accurate as we're likely to get. I'm sure new evidence will emerge over time, but the idea that some sort of gigantic conspiracy has taken place involving the United States government and its agents, and probably foreign powers as well, is really just beyond the bounds of credibility. And I think it's deeply depressing that so many obviously highly educated people are willing to give credence to such an absurd idea. And they do say that once you get too open-minded, your brain just falls out the bottom of your skull. And I think it was really quite depressing to see so many people just willing to sign up in such a uncritical, supine way to such bizarre ideas.
It's been amazing. I've never been to any such talks. He's really give me a proper light of what really is happening. But to be honest with you, I've come to the conclusion that we're living in a world being ruled by fear. It's like really creating a situation where people are living in fear to be controlled. Having listened to him, he was like underground, is really a first-hand witness of what has happened, and I can't question what he's talking about. But he's been there, and I think I've learned a lot tonight.
I didn't realise you worked with the great Randy, didn't you?
The amazing Randy, that was my teacher.
Good grief! That's incredible, isn't it?
And actually, that's the whole thing how I started to question the government, because I was trained basically to investigate claims of the paranormals.
How do you come to terms with the thing? How do you sleep at night? How do you manage to block all of those things, all the terrible things that you've seen?
Well, number one, because I became an activist right away. The only way that for me to deal and to digest emotionally what just has happened was to organize the families, start fighting for benefits for them, legislation after legislation, and it was just a dedication that I just went straight-hearted to try to make a difference. And the lack of I can say the lack of help from the government at that time was instrumental for my personal cure, for the simple reason because I was so busy from the very beginning. And then the sad part was that we, and I'm not talking about myself alone, we were confronted with such a massive loss of people. And in my case, I lost 200 friends on 9/11. And that's actually what motivates me to do a change and to be doing this 5 years after, trying to get to the truth, trying to train governments all over the world on what is called disaster management, because I owe this to the memory of the friends that I lost.
Do you kind of worry in a way, William, that if you stop doing what you're doing now, that the impact of what you've seen and what you've been through will catch up with you?
Yes, definitely. I did receive something called post-traumatic shock disorder, which is something that you go through. And it was, I got it late. I got it 3 years after, because I was so busy. I was non-stop doing presentations and arguments and debates with the government to help the victims. So it hit me really late, but I learned, and it will catch up. It will catch up, because it's something that marks you forever. You are living history.
You know, I still have some dreams, you know, of that day, of just, you know, explosions, terrorist, you know, attacks, you know, that, it's, you know, it's still, you know, it may have been 6 years, but it's still going, you know, it's still a fight.
As we were walking over the bridge, we were almost done walking on, my cell phone rings somehow. And it was my Uncle Bobby Tria. Bobby called me up. Hello, I go, hello, who's this? He goes, Jay, is this you? I go, this is Jay, who's this? He goes, it's Bobby. And he goes, John, I got him on the phone. John's my father's name. And I heard in the background, get John off the floor. What's going on? Then my father picked up the phone. He was hysterical crying. My father, where are you? Oh, you're all right. I said, Dad, I'm safe. I'm coming over the bridge. I'm fine. Are you okay? He was, to hear your father crying over the phone is a touching moment.
This is a letter from the president I got for saving Felipe. And it's got the original, you know, the insignia, you know, right there. And this is People magazine for September 11th. And it has a article of me talking about what happened. And then this is a magazine of a Alliance. I guess it's like an ABM, you know, like it's a 32BJ kind of union book, and it has me in the picture of when it first happened. So, well, I will never get over 9/11. It's in my heart. It's in my head. It's really hard. You can't get over experience like that. I mean, I have problems with depression and alcoholism. I drink a lot, and you know, I'm going to try to get over it myself and maybe try to get help. But it'll always stick with me. You can't get over something like that. It's deep rooted inside you, and you'll never get over something like that. I hope that maybe in the future that I could put it to the side and maybe take care of it take care of my problems, but as far as like letting it go, I could never let it go. It's too embedded in me.
Shortly after this interview, Kenny shot and killed himself at the apartment. He stressed in a suicide note that drinking had ruined his life and that he had been very depressed since 9/11. William's self-confessed quest for the truth has taken him on an incredible journey, and he is not alone in his search. A vast number of family members are now calling for a new investigation. Do you support his quest for the truth?
Absolutely. That'll be our lifelong quest, is to try to find the truth of September 11th and what's really the real story behind it, because we know that what we've been given is only a glimpse of it and distortions of it, and my daughter deserves better than that. We want the truth. Her name is Alicia, it means truth, and our quest has been the same as Mr. Rodriguez's. She was on the plane that hit the South Tower.
She was a flight attendant on Flight 175.
Tell her about it.
I feel 5 years later that it's still very difficult for me to wrap my mind around that Alicia was killed, and that there are still no answers to so many questions that we have, and we've not been given the truth, and that we're going to continue to search and support people that are out there asking the same kinds of questions and demanding the truth.
We want to thank Mr. Rodriguez for all he's doing to bring out the truth, because it's very important to us.
When the other tower got hit, and that's when I started bringing down a person on a wheelchair down to the lobby, and the building started to collapse, and I was buried with everybody.
We saw you on the news. I believe the whole world saw you.
Yes.
Kyung, she was my younger sister. She was a middle child, and I have another younger sister. So she was, the peacemaker of the whole family, and she was a giver too. So that's why it's just very difficult for us.
And the other thing I was going to ask you, we have been doing a push, the family push, to get a reinvestigation, because the 9/11 Commission didn't give us all the answers of what happened on that day. Right. And people like Bill Doyle, people like Sally Regenhard, people like Diane Horning, all these people that have been from the very beginning working very hard are doing this push. How do you feel about that?
I feel that thanks to those people, they're doing all they can, and we're doing all we can, trying to search for answers. But personally, I think as victims' families, we deserve more. We deserve how our loved ones, is it one or two? No, we're talking thousands of innocent lives taken away like that. We deserve answers. Whether we can get it or not, I don't know. But the way I feel that the answers that we've been getting is not enough, and it's not right. We at least deserve answers.
The importance of our meeting is emotional closing for us. Number two, that we have the same mission. We're still searching for answers. 7 years after the event, we're still looking for that answer of what happened on that day.
The truth. Just give me a little truth. Tell me something that you really know, and nothing that you're just BSing about the whole time. I lost my whole world, and you know why. I want to know why. They took my life away from me. I'm getting it back now, and it's coming clearer what happened. Somebody just tried to take away our world, just like, and it's a shame. Our own people, I believe.
There's many people in the Muslim community, a vast majority, that harbour the belief that 9/11 was an inside job. However, as you also know, they feel as though they're on the back foot because everything's against them. The laws that are being passed, the media, the way it's portraying Muslims, it's very hard to speak out because if you speak out, basically you become a target and you'll get knocked down. So you can have a certain belief, but it's hard to articulate that belief because one, you might not be given the platform, and even if you are given that platform, you're in for a rough ride. You'll just be portrayed as a loose cannon, a bit of a loner, a denier, or doing an injustice to the victims of 9/11. So who's got that level of courage, given the current climate, the atmosphere against Muslims? There's not many people that got that level of courage because you've got a lot to lose.
Dissension was once seen as the greatest form of patriotism, but when it comes to questioning the official story of 9/11, William and other survivors have frequently met with hostility. The door on 9/11 remains firmly closed, but the activism around it is growing.